Hello, this is Steve Maltz, the Disruptor. Right, well, my first career, going way back to the 80s now, always been in computing. After sort of graduation from university, I just drifted into the computing world. The days of mainframes, and we didn't have monitors or anything like that. It was all done on paper, using timeshare rather than actual physical computers in your office. So really, I'm a dinosaur basically. Hopefully you're still switching on and not turning off in disgust. But the thing is that always been creative, and I've managed to sort of marry the two, my sort of technical background and my creative background, and always loved the idea of doing the interactive things. I was very much into interactivity in the early days, and around about 1982 I gave up a really good, well-paying job to basically develop a career running a software house of games. I used to write for computer companies, computers that were going around at the time, home computers like Spectrum, Commodore 64, Dragon 32, BBC, the Electron. I had them all, and at one point I was doing quite well for such a small concern. One of my adventure games, Pettigrew's Diary, got to #1 in the Christmas charts, being stocked and really pushed by Boots the Chemist, funnily enough, who were really real promoters of computer games in those days, and also W.H. Smith's. Probably one of my crowning glories was one called Woodbury End, which I wrote for the BBC and the Electron, which had for me, a lot of technical stuff went into it. When I think that the whole adventure game, which included, based on the Midwich Cuckoos, the John Wyndham book, The Village of the Damned, that sort of idea of all these little blonde kids all being born from alien parents and living in a village. So I did a game based on that called Woodbury End, and the whole game, which included graphics and real-time clock and everything, could actually fit into the memory that you would use for an animated GIF. That's where we were. 19 or 20k was the whole thing, so it's definitely a different age now. I still have fans. I got a little fan club out there, and they've been emailing me and asking for more information and telling me things about the game that I've forgotten about myself. So I've always wanted, throughout my since I've become a believer, to write computer games for the Christian market, and I did some early ones for Lion Publishing, one called Conflict in Jerusalem, which I'm really proud of, which looks at the last week of Jesus' life in Jerusalem, fully interactive with loads of little graphics and lots of conversations, and really true to life in the sense of its locations, etc. But I've lost it. I can't find copies of it anyway. I'm sure it's probably on a floppy disk somewhere. I did a version for kids called Risen, which was the Easter story, but for kiddies, again promoted by Lion Publishing. But between then and now, it's always been my desire, since I've been writing books, I've had lots of content, and to actually show that content interactively. And I started a project a couple of years ago using Adobe Captivate, this sort of technology that I thought would work, but it wasn't. It was so cumbersome, and then it cost too much, and I got rid of it. Well, 2 months ago or 3 months ago, I discovered on the internet this thing called Twine. It's a free public domain software written by, I think, one chap, and it's designed to actually write text adventure games, and it is so easy to use. I'm amazed that as a content person as well as a coder, I can do both at the same time without worrying at all about anything technical. It's so simple to use. So I have been using this in the first instance, but all my books that are of an evangelistic nature is to basically dump them into the internet, through the web and through these HTMLs called Twines, which I'm grouping together. And I mentioned this last week on this project. You might have figured out the acronym, BOGIE. blue on gold interactive explorations. Blue on gold are just a colour scheme, which I quite like. I think it's really clear, looks good on a mobile phone, and we have to say, if we're going to do anything content wise, you've got primarily do it for a mobile phone. Most people, certainly target audience, which would always be younger people and those on the move, it's the mobile phone. It's hopefully what you're looking at me through now. So and interactive, they're exploration. So I'm going to launch this in some sort of state in a few weeks. It won't be in its finished state, but the content will all be there, and it basically means at least 6 or 7 of my books will actually be there on the internet, free to look at in sort of bite-sized portions and in a sort of interactive nature. So watch this space. I'll mention when it's about to be launched. It'll probably use the domain name BOGIE.me BOGIE me because it's available. And again, you know, it's easy to remember, isn't it, rather than blue on gold interactive explorations. So there you go, that's all being very disruptive, but before I get too carried away, I think I'll leave it for now. So speak to you again next week. Goodbye.